Hey guys, Flawless Walrus here, and I'm on to the first video in our introduction to what to think about when you're picking an item to sell. So the first one on our list was competition. So I made a list of things that I'm gonna cover, and if it's too complicated or anything like that, don't worry, because these some aspects of these things on the list that appear will be covered again in future videos, and it'll become clear to you what I mean. I'll try to make it as clear as possible, as simple as possible, but if you have any questions or any confusing things, just ask them in the comments below and I will definitely answer them. So let's get started. So the first one is, there's two aspects, okay? So competition will be different for each item. It's a subjective trait. So what do I mean by this? If I am on Tera 24/7 and I have all the time in the world to play because I don't work or have school or anything like that, and I'm thirsty as heck, then usually competition will be lower for me because I can always outcompete everybody because I'm always online. So I can always undercut people. I can always be online so that when someone wants to buy my stuff, they can just negotiate me so they don't have to pay the broker fees. It pretty much means that I have more power than the person who's not online as much. Now, for someone like me who's not online as much, my definition of high competition is different than most people. For me, for most people, what would be medium competition is high competition to me because I just don't want to get into that kind of area. For me, I need the easiest things so that I can make money because I'm never online. So it depends on each person, and you'll find your own definition of this, but by learning what I'm about to go over, you'll definitely understand how to classify different competitions among different items. So the most important trait is the turnover rate and the saturation. So a high turnover rate, for example, this is all subjective, but for me it would be something like stuff that sells really fast. So what kind of stuff sells really fast? If there's an event and they came out with new items, that stuff sells really fast in the first 1 to 3 days. If there's a new patch and there's new classes coming out, stuff that sells for that class will be way higher in terms of turnover rate. If there's an increasing demand for some kind of consumable, then that turnover rate will be really high. For instance, before this patch came out, the most recent one anyway, Tier 6 feedstock was really, really high turnover rate. You sold that stuff like super fast. So that's something that's high turnover rate. Now, something that's low turnover rate for me would be, let's say, for example, an EMP item that I bought that doesn't sell within the first week. For me, if it doesn't sell within the first week, I would start to classify that as low turnover rate. So it wouldn't be selling exactly that fast. Now, high saturation just means there's a lot of people listing that item. Now, this again will differ based on each item, right? So if we look at something like this weapon skin, if I was new to Tera, I would say, oh, it seems like there's already a lot of people there. I don't think I'll go for this. I mean, there's already 4 people selling it, so why would they buy mine instead of theirs? But now that I've gone through this and I've tried it, I know better than that. I know that 5 people selling a weapon skin is not that high at all. I would say it's actually medium, and I would actually do it. I would actually buy it. It wouldn't be as fast, and it's definitely not something that I would do in the beginning if I was starting to become rich again, like if I had to start from nothing. But where I am now, I'll take all the money I can get, so I would definitely do something like this. So because I know through experience that I can still sell, even though there's five people, maybe even 8 people selling the same item for this skin, then I would classify that in terms of my own definition. So I would say, oh, that's medium competition. I would definitely, it wouldn't be that bad for me. Now, if you're someone who is used to getting things easier and you're used to selling things instantly, then you would be like, whoa, this is way too high competition for me. But normally in this game, you're not going to find stuff like that. If you do, it's only going to be a day or two before people catch on because a lot of people are always thinking about how they can make money. So that was a bit long, but that's pretty much what saturation is. Now, low saturation is just the opposite. So if I see something and there's hardly anybody listing for that item, then that's something that'd be like, whoa, is this a good thing to buy or not? So don't worry about the turnover rate just too much yet, because the turnover rate is actually going to be the same as demand, and demand is actually going to be a future video that I'll be covering, and we will talk about how to make an estimate of how high the demand is for this item. So don't worry too much about that. Just try to get the basic gist of what I'm saying, so that when you start to look at items, any item, you'll start to see things differently, because that's what I'm trying to show you guys. It's a perspective, right? So in this example, we're going to be saying that saturation equals competition. And like I said, we're simplifying these concepts because I don't want to overwhelm you guys, and maybe this stuff is really boring. I mean, you're playing a game. You're not here to learn, like, you know, you're taking a break from school. You don't want to learn stuff you would learn at school. So I'll definitely make this as simple as possible. And the second thing I want to mention is, do not take my word as black and white. And this is because what I'll teach you guys is definitely something you guys can use in terms of getting a new perspective, but to really get your own understanding, you have to do it. And this is through trial and error and experience. And that's the only way you'll become a master at this. Even if you watch all my videos, if you never take action and try selling stuff and trying out the concepts that I teach, you're never going to learn the stuff. If you think you understand it, you actually have to do it until you master it. And that's the difference between just knowing something and understanding it, right? So those are two things that I wanted to mention before we go into this. Now, let's look at some of the criteria. Now, for everything, you're either going to have a high, low, 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 like all those permutations, right? So let's look at some of the ones that I've classified. And these are actually all the combinations that are possible with turnover rate and saturation anyway. So let's say an item sells really fast, right? High turnover rate, and there's not a lot of people listing for it. Then that to me is a great area to look for. Even if there's a small amount of profit, it wouldn't matter, because I'd be making a small amount of profit very fast, and that would equal a pretty decent amount of profit, right? Now, if there was a small amount of profit to a large amount of profit, I would definitely look into something. Anything with high turnover rate and low saturation, if there's some kind of significant profit margin, definitely look into that and think about how you can get into that market. Just buy that stuff, you know what I mean? Now, let's look at medium turnover rate with a medium saturation. So this item sells, it's okay. It sells pretty decent, and it's also, you know, decently crowded, right? So I would say that's a decent area to look into. Same thing with something that has a high turnover rate and a high saturation rate, right? Now, I want to go into more depth of this because I feel like I skipped over it, but if it sells okay and it's okay in terms of saturation, that would be something like, for me, like this. It's not fast, but it definitely happens, and I definitely can make money off of it. So definitely something I would look into. But again, it's not too fast. Now, if there's something that sells really fast and it's really competitive, again, I would look into something like this. One of the things you'll notice so far is that when there's a high turnover rate, I really think about, is this a good thing for me? And that's something that I really want to show to you guys, is that for a high turnover rate item, definitely be more aware and see if there's any opportunity for you to make any kind of gain in that area, because high turnover rate is really, really good. It's better than something that had really high profit margin and low saturation, but if it doesn't sell, then there's no point, right? In the end, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sales. So the rate of sales is most important. So like I said, high turnover rate, high saturation, I would look into that. Now, this is the stuff that I would not look into unless there was an extreme amount of profit and I knew that I was in it for the long run. This thing might not even sell for maybe 2 weeks, but it would be okay because the profit margin is so big, it'd be okay for me to wait 2 weeks. That would be something that sells really low, that has a really low turnover rate, and it sells, or it has a really high saturation. So something that sells slow but is really, really crowded. And this happens a lot when people overestimate the ability of something to sell, so they all buy it and they find out that no one actually wants it. So that's something that will happen quite a bit. If the item doesn't sell very quickly and there's still low saturation, I would still say this is a bad market unless there's extreme profit, simply because the low turnover rate, right? If it's not selling quickly, then it's not really a priority for me. What we want to do is maximize the amount of time that we spend investing in things that sell quickly so that we can grow our money as fast as possible. Now, I'm going to go over this concept later on in terms of efficiency. So you'll see, like, we've already covered some stuff related to demand, efficiency, And that's just the way this is. Like when you start merging, all this stuff is going to work in tandem with each other. But it's important to learn each thing individually and try them out so that you have a better understanding, right? So this is pretty much it in terms of competition. Now, we can go over some examples. Like, let's say, what sells fast? In my server, artisan adhesives sell really fast. Now, there's a lot of people listing it. You'll see some people that are merchants. Oh, never mind. This guy's just selling it in stacks of ones. I'll teach you guys how to interpret stuff too. But yeah, so there's a variety of people here, and there's actually only one page. That's weird. Normally there's like 2-3 pages full of this kind of stuff. So for me, I would say, okay, I know from experience that this thing has a pretty decent turnover rate. And from what it seems like to me, the saturation is not that high. So then the ultimate question is there a profit margin that I could make from doing this? And that's something that we'll go over later as well. What is another good example? Let's look for some ideas. Okay, Felicity. Okay, there's one page, a lot of people selling it, in my opinion anyway. Okay, so what I would say is this. In terms of turnover rate, I would say I know from experience that you will probably sell a pet like this. If I match the lowest price, I'll probably sell it within 3 to 7 days. And that's just from my past experience. That's why I can make this kind of judgment. So that to me is a medium turnover rate. Now let's think about competitiveness. There's one page, and I know that if I match the lowest price, I'll actually be able to beat out a lot of these people that are selling it for what, like 35K for one? Come on, look at this. People are selling it for 25K. How are you going to try to get away with 35K? So that's something that I'll go over too, pricing. But for me, I would say that in terms of this item, I would definitely do it because it's a medium turnover rate and the competition is not high enough that it'll cut me out. So I'll definitely do this, right? So now those are some examples. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see more examples or there's stuff that you don't understand. It's definitely okay. I might be overloading you guys with information. I hope that I'm not. But like I said, anything I can do to clear things up for you guys, just let me know. And the next video, I forgot what it's going to be on, but it'll be up in a couple of days. So again, I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this, and I hope I helped you guys.